everyone tonight?
Good.
Very good. You can tell me later about the Mantra Oasis situation. It sounds encouraging, though.
Won't be decided for 7 days, it should say.
Oh, okay. Can I get some water? Ah, pro action. Oh, this is fine. Yeah, did you ever think about that? That subject? Does God have friends? I mean, you've got friends, but my gosh, who does God, who does he hang out with? Who are his buds? You ever think about that? Certain big important personalities, they have, they have friends, they have associates. What about the Supreme? You ever think about that? What did the Shastras say about that? Who were his friends? Wow.
All of us. Everybody.
Sridham Sarvabhutanam, he says he's your dearmost friend and ever well-wisher. Who are his friends? If he's going to go play golf, who's he going to go play with? Yeah. So anyway, I thought about this. This is a class I gave about, I don't know, 5 years ago. And I thought this is a good subject matter to bring up because many of you weren't around 5 years ago. So let's talk about it. And jump in with questions or comments anytime you want, okay? All right, so that's kind of a funny situation. I was thinking not too long ago, you very rarely meet people who've had friends, close friends, all their life. It's like people tell you, well, the people that I went to school with, we were really close, you know. We did all these really funky things together, and we were going through a pivotal point in our lives together. And man, I haven't heard from them since school. Or someone that you knew in a previous job, you were friends with them, but then you get a different job or they get a different job, and we're not having a close association anymore. So do you notice that? Or do you notice, maybe you guys notice people who've had lifelong buddies?
I know a few.
Yeah. Not too many, though. Typically, people don't have close friends that they've had for a long, long time. It's like the friend of the day. Today, my friend is this guy. Relationships have a tendency to do that. They cancel out. I get a new relationship, cancels out the one I had before. I replaced you. I replaced our relationship with a new relationship. I don't need you anymore. Something about you makes me upset or makes me feel inadequate or whatever. So I need somebody to fulfill my needs. I need a new friend. I need friends. So this is a struggle that we see in the material world. We have all these terms, but we don't really know what's the full definition. Like, for instance, what's the full definition of the word love? We don't really know that. Now, sometimes we may think we do. Sometimes in the past we might have thought we knew, but as we get closer to the center of love, we realize, or if you haven't realized it yet, you will realize that, gee whiz, I didn't know anything about love. I didn't know it could be this intense. I didn't know it could be this deep. And I didn't know it could be everlasting, which is what it's supposed to be. We want it. When we get love, we want to keep it. If it's the real thing, it's not something that you just use and throw away. You know, it's not a disposable thing. But it's inadequate. Material love, material affairs are inadequate. So we cycle through. You know, we use them and toss them, replace them. So is that true? Is that true for most people? I mean, that's been my observance of, I mean, for 50 years, I've been, 51 years, I guess, or something like that. I've been a devotee. So I've got friends that I've had from the beginning and a whole lot of new ones that have come along since. And gee whiz, it just keeps getting better, the relationships. I meet up with devotees. For instance, a few years ago, I met up with Giridhari Swami in Mayapur. We hadn't seen each other for over 10 years. And the relationship started off exactly where it was the last minute we were together. No time lost. Everything was the same. Now, so many things had changed in his life, so many things had changed in my life, but the us was still fresh, just like I could feel the love, the same love that I'd always had for him. And I could feel his loving exchange, you see. So, I mean, this is true again and again and again. Jivananda Swami, Shiva Swami. I can go on and on and on of friends that are there, and they're there forever. Forever. These are eternal friendships. So, in Krishna consciousness, we discover the concept, and we actually get to experience eternal love, eternal friendship. That's something unique that this movement brings to the table. So, Krishna talks about friendship in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna's a really good friend. I mean, he is the example of a friend. Now you may think, who the hell wants God for a friend? You know? I mean, what do I do if he drops in and the house isn't clean? You know, if we're going to go hang out together, I got to wear my best clothes. I got to clean up. I got to shave. I got to do all this stuff because, you see, we're intimidated a little bit by friendship with this supreme guy. But that is just upside down. Material thinking is upside down. It's like in the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, they talk about, Krishna explains the banyan tree that's on the shore of the lake. And so the real banyan tree has its leaves going up and the roots are down. But the reflection of the banyan tree in the water it's just the opposite. The roots are going up and the branches are going down. So the material world is a perverted reflection of reality. Perverted. It's upside down and backwards. You see, this world, it only appears to be one thing, but the reality of what it is mimicking is there, but it's in the real world, the spiritual world, the eternal world. This is the temporary world. So love, friendship, things like that exist in the spiritual world, and we also believe that they exist here. What we actually have in this material world when it comes to love and friendship is memories of the real friendship and the real love that we experience on the spiritual level. It's just a memory. But what we get in this material world is upside down. It's not. It's not the same. It's the spiritual world. It's not eternal. It's not as deep. The love and the friendship is just not as deep. Now, why do you think that is? Or does anybody disagree? You can disagree. I mean, we'll throw you out, but you can disagree.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
I just saw one of my friends that I've known since I was 4 years old, and we were friends all the way through high school. Every day we just loved each other. And when I saw him, he's in a very different world than I am, but the love I felt was so strong, and the reciprocation, the acceptance I felt from him was so real. Like, he really supports and happy for me, and but the all the things that we talk about are the same, but the love and the friendship and the laughing and the happiness that I felt in his association felt the same. And I actually had questioned, like, I shouldn't be feeling this, because usually when you go back to materialistic type friends, I don't feel that, not even the slightest. But this particular person I was extraordinarily close to, I did. So does that mean there's a spiritual aspect to that friendship, or is it just a Maya? Or?
Well, it could very well be that you're seeing him and your relationship through devotional eyes. Your consciousness has been polished to the point that you're seeing love on a spiritual and friendship on a spiritual basis. It's kind of doubtful if he's there on that same level. But situation, you've learned a little bit about this loving relationship thing. You're a lot better at it now than you were years ago. You see? And you don't even have to try. We don't have to try to be more loving. In the material world, people are always trying to better at this and better at that. Of course, I want my money. If you give me some money, I'll tell you how to be a better friend, a better husband. Why do you need this? Because you're not in contact with the spiritual energy. If you were in contact with the spiritual energy, you could be a really good friend. You wouldn't have to be taught. It's natural. It comes from within you. The real you, the true eternal self, the Jiva, is expert at loving relationships. Why? Because you're a part and parcel of the supreme source of love. Nobody is a better friend and a better lover than Krishna. He's the source of all of this, and we're part of him. So just by your nature, you are expert at being a loving, loyal friend. You're expert at it. But then you come to this material world, and it's everyone's interested in themselves. Got that self-interest item that we all have to deal with. If I have self-interest for me and you have self-interest for you, can you not see how that divides us? Looking out for me, you're looking out for you. In the material world, that's kind of the rule. Well, what's wrong with that? But it's not natural to the soul to have self-interest. I mean, the materialists would say, well, that's just plain crazy. But you don't need self-interest. Hare Krishna. If and when you get to the point where you get to know a little bit about the eternal self, you, the real you, then you get to the point very early in the game where you feel, I'm all right. I'm okay. Well, I'm part and parcel of Krishna. I'm going to start behaving that way. I'm going to act like it. I'm a part of God. I have all of the qualities that God has. Just don't have the quantity. He's got unlimited quantity. But whatever God has, because you're a part of him, you have it too. He's the source of love, and that comes through you as well. You see? But then you get into the material world, and we forget all that. Now it's kind of like every man for himself. You see? Of course, there are people who do humanitarian things, and they try to help other people, but basically, we're looking out for number one. And that's a hard point to get people to acquiesce to, because they think, well, what's wrong with that? My mom always said, you got to look out for number one. You got to look out for yourself. In a world that feeds on each other's bodies, basically that's what we have. We live in a world, if you just look at it realistically, we've got a world where everything eats something else here. You know, if you're walking sometime and I can remember many times walking through the desert and you find a snake that's just about got a frog swallowed. What a horrible thing. You know, here you are hopping along, looking for your frog wife. I called her a frog wife. You know, not you. I'm not saying you have a frog wife.
How did that make him a frog husband?
How did I get into this? Sometimes I get
Riding
myself.
snake, the snake's mom.
Wait, but who's the snake?
Yeah. Now they're going to argue tonight on the way home. They're going to be, I thought you were the snake. The snake? I'm a frog. So, but you see that, this snake is wolfing down this frog. What a horrible thing. Frog's just going along being a frog, and next thing you know, here's a snake, and now he's being devoured. Well, is that an oddity? No, it has to happen. It has to happen a lot. Everything is food for something else. Except us. I mean, we're the top of the food chain. Everything else has to worry about us, because what I've found from humans is they'll eat just about anything. Now you may think, oh no, I can remember in my business days we'd be on at a convention in some exotic place. And so the locals, there's some local food that they want to serve at the dinner. It's a big 5-star hotel, and so they've got one of the local things is eating some sort of a weird creature. Like, I was there one time and I looked and I saw something. I said, what is this? Oh, that's octopus. Well, heck, hardly anybody had ever tried octopus. But here they run up there, well, let me give it a shot. Because you have it, I should try it. I'll eat anything. There was a time, I know this may shock some of you, when in America, at least in America, we wouldn't think of eating raw fish. You go back 20 years and try to get somebody to eat some raw fish, they would go, what, are you crazy? When it became hip and popular, well, here's everybody's. I saw this sign when I was going into the store not too long ago. I think it was Fry's. I'm going into a Fry's to get something. And there's a sign there. They have sushi every Wednesday at 5:00. I'm thinking, it can't be very high-class sushi. I mean, is this sushi, is it that easy to make? I mean, do you buy it there?
Yeah.
So I don't, I've been out of this picture for a long time. So when the sushi thing came in, I was like, are you kidding? But I realized by then my fellow man will eat just about anything, especially if it's kind of hip. So, but this is going all the time. One critter is food for another. So that's the nature of this world. Everything has its self-interest. Everything is motivated by, I need to find a place to sleep. I need something to eat. I need some sex life. I need to mate. And I'm ready to defend all that once I get it. So then here you are next door. You've got the same proclivities, but you're going to be close friends. Now, some people do that. Some people can have some close friendships. I don't know how long they endure. But from what I've observed, the devotees' friendships tend to endure many, many decades longer. And because when I talk with my relatives, I'll say, hey, how was so-and-so? Oh, wow, I haven't seen him in 20 years. Oh, why is that? So because we're not that close. Not close enough to stay in contact unless we work together or live close by or whatever. And that's a generality. That's not true for everybody. But anyway, in Bhagavad Gita, 9th chapter, 29th verse, Krishna says, I can just see Krishna saying this. Krishna says, I envy no one. Wow, isn't that amazing? You think, yeah, I can understand that, Krishna. So I don't envy anybody. I am not envious of you. All of you together. I'm not envious. So, I'm not going to try to outdo you. You see, there's no friction in our relationship for me being envious of you. So there's one entity, happens to be the supreme entity, that's telling you, I am not envious of you. Oh, that's a pretty good beginning for the relationship, isn't it? He goes on to say, nor am I partial to anyone. I'm not envious of you, and I'm not partial. I'm equal with everybody. Just like when it rains, it even rains on the ocean. The ocean doesn't need any more water. And it rains on the rocks, just like it does. It's equal. Of course, we may feel here in this part of the world that we don't get our fair share, but, it's the desert. What can I say? I'm equal to all, but whoever renders service unto me in devotion is a friend, is in me, and I am also a friend to him. Can you imagine? Does anybody, I don't know how much, I've studied a lot of different scriptures and philosophies and things like that. Does anybody else know of any scripture where God is saying, he's making a point here. He mentions friend twice in this verse. Now he'll go on. I've got other verses where he talks more and more about it. I envy no one, nor am I partial to anyone. I'm equal to all. But, now he can do this because he makes the rules. But for those who render service to me, then you're my friend. You're within me, and I'm a friend to you. I mean, if Krishna looked at the supreme personality of Godhead, looked at you and said, I'm your friend, how would that make you feel? What would you? Oh, you'd say, prove it?
No. I said blissful.
Oh yeah, well, Krishna, show me. You got your hands full here. So, yeah, can you imagine that? Krishna says, you're my friend, and I'm your friend. You know, that's amazing when you think about it. But it's true. He's not talking in some sort of
Riddles.
huh?
Riddles.
Yeah, it's not talking riddles. He's saying it exactly how it is. You're my friend, and I'm your friend. Wow. Now, shouldn't that, if you believe it, shouldn't that take a load off your mind? Like, it's one of those moments. Wow. By hearing that, by understanding that, can you imagine how much I can grow in my personal development? What to speak of my spiritual development? I'm a friend of God. He's my friend. Wow. I mean, a lot of insecurities just got up and walked right out the door. A lot of things where we were maybe a little critical of ourselves. Does anybody here get critical of yourself every once in a while? Yeah. Well, that needs to get up and go. You shouldn't be critical of yourself. You might be critical of your behavior, but not of who and what you truly are. Your true dharma, your true nature, what you are. You can't be embarrassed by that. You're the friend of the supreme friend. And he says he's your friend. Says it in writing. That's your contract right there. If you render service to me in devotion, you're my friend. You're in me. You are within me. You're within the whole picture, the big picture. And I'm a friend to you. I mean, that's a lot to work with, isn't it? That'll help you develop if you can just remember it. Now, how do we remember things? I don't know about you, but for me, the way I remember is I have to repeat them. You have to do that? Repeat. You know, like you're trying to memorize a verse out of the Bhagavad Gita, you have to repeat it, and repeat it. So some things we have to repeat. So every so often I say several times a day, Shuridam Sarva Bhutanam. Krishna says, I am your dearest. In the 5th chapter, I'm your friend. He says, I'm your dear. I'm your dearmost friend and ever well. Always wish you well. If we just get into the scripture, if we just listen to the words that Krishna says, that should change the way we see the world, starting with the way you see yourself. I'm the dearmost friend of the Supreme Lord. Wow. Do I deserve that? I don't behave in such a way that I deserve that much. Krishna is trying to inundate me with love, but I don't deserve it because of my behavior. I don't always behave properly with other living entities. So I can change that. Doesn't mean that I'm bad. I just may have some bad behavior. You know, when you're young and your mother says you're behaving badly, she gives you a little swat. Of course, I don't know if we do that anymore. Is that criminal now?
You can still spank.
Huh?
You can still legally spank.
Really?
Not in California,
We took that class. Remember? Yeah.
Does that go for disciples? So yeah, I mean, so this is something for us to meditate on. Omar.
So what does a friendship with Krishna look like while we have a physical body?
While we have a physical body, while we're embodied in this world, how does that friendship look like? I start to realize through association, through guru, association with sadhus, saintly people, and Shastra, the scriptures, I start to realize what kind of a guy this God fellow is. Well, he's not as scary as I always was taught he was. Everybody all my life taught me that, you got to be afraid of this guy. It's like somebody asked, I forget who it was now, but somebody asked one of my god brothers, I think it was Jayadvaita Swami, we were preaching in Austin, 100 years ago. And someone asked Jayadvaita Swami, what's the difference between Krishna and the God in the Old Testament? And Jayadvaita Swami says, well, it's the same God. It's just that in the Bhagavad Gita, he's in a lot better mood. He's not looking to toast anybody or destroy. I mean, he wants to kill millions of people, but that's a different story. Oh, thank you. But they needed to be killed for us. So, is that a good answer?
Well, I'm just wondering because it's like, you have like a physical body and you can do like an activity together. Like that's like friends do stuff together. Like we'll play kirtan, like we'll have like a conversation. But like God still seems like so far away and like I don't see him in front of me. So it's like
that's
feels
just
more difficult to like
that's just it. We're in the world of illusion. It's like you can walk up, if you're at the foot of Mount Everest, and I mean like as close as from here to that wall, and it goes up. You don't get to see the whole mountain, do you? Well, you're too close. Somebody say, wow, isn't that a huge mountain? You're talking about this? That's the mountain? Well, you have to back up. You say, oh, yeah, I see it. So you're not seeing the full picture. You see, you're confused by the material elements. Does that make any sense? He's got his hand up first.
I want to share this. I was reading today, fourth canto, Jivananda, and there's a nice quote that I just wanted to bounce off. But Omar said that we can get a lot more personal with Krishna because we can have conversations with Krishna. At least I know I do. Always speaking to Krishna, and then if you have a deity, then deity, really worship that deity becomes very, very visceral friendship. And I feel always Krishna's, the whole Pandavas, they were, Krishna was acting in the background. They were always thinking of him, and he was always moving things for them. So we just begin to see how Krishna is always there, and he is our friend.
This is an important point. We don't understand. We can't see. We're too close, and we don't see the whole picture. We're having desires. And Krishna's fulfilling those desires. We have a desire of what we want to be or what we want to experience. And that comes along. We get that. Now we may not feel that we always get it because sometimes there's a time delay. You don't get it right away, what you ask for, but Krishna fulfills all desires. And so it's like you're proposing and he's disposing. He's always done that. Even if you have a strong desire to go away from it. I want to forget about you, Krishna. Well, but that's not even possible. He is unforgettable. Keep in mind, we all started out with his direct association. We were with him. And we wanted to forget him and leave and go out on our own. And maybe we can be a little godly. Maybe I can be the center of attention. So Krishna says, all right, I've created a world that you can go, you can try to be away from me. And I even have a great devotee of mine who's there to help you. Forget me. Well, he's unforgettable. we have to think from time to time just how beautiful, how attractive, how charming, how wonderful, how humorous, how loving is this supreme entity. We have to meditate on that. I don't know the answers to that. I know it's just out of my ability to imagine. So how do you forget somebody like that? You can't. So you want to, he gives it to you. Okay. Between me and my Maya, we'll put you in illusion, and you can think that you're a frog being eaten by a snake, or a snake eating a frog, or a human being. You can believe all this stuff, and this can go on as long as you want. And then when you change your mind and you say, hey, well, I'm tired of this, I want to come back. The reality, I want to come back, I want my real self back. Then he says, all right, we'll do that. But you can't forget him unless he gives you, he has to empower you to forget him. I mean, did you have a question?
It was actually the same exactly you said, that don't we get close to Krishna by worshiping the deities?
Worshiping deities.
There's a, talk to massage on this.
Maybe you can pray. We hear a lot of that, don't we? Pray for this, pray for that. So what do they mean? Let's put it into, so you got this, somebody who's your best friend. You're friends with Govinda Madhava, yeah? Do you ever pray to him? You would just talk to him. Hey, Prabhu, I need your help. I need your advice. You wouldn't get down on one knee, oh, Govinda Madhava.
I would.
I pray to God every day.
No, you just talk. Why can't we deformalize? We just talk to our friend. Gee, Krishna, I really need your help. Or I'm so thankful that you helped me out. You did this, and well, that was really sweet of you. You're always looking out for me. And I forget that you're looking out for me. Sometimes I get worried and concerned about how this is going to happen or how that's going to happen. And I forget, no, I'm your dear most friend. I got this. If you surrender to me, Krishna, everything's going to be okay. I get my way. I'm God. The illusory energy can't touch you. You've surrendered to me. You may not want to, because you don't want to surrender to anybody or anything. You want to do your own thing. You want to show the world how great you are. Right? Everybody wants to prove. Otherwise, there would be no Facebook. Facebook's not there for communication. It's there for self-promotion. Isn't it? Am I wrong? I'm not wrong, right? Huh?
It's used like that.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, there's some communication, but basically I want you to see me, not me. I mean, that best picture that they accidentally took when we were standing by the ocean, the one that I look at and said, wow, that's such a nice picture. It doesn't even look like me. That's the one I'm going to use on there because it's like, it's all me. Look at me. That's why it's popular. It's a mega billion dollar business because it helps you show the world how cute you are and how fashionable you are. And you see, that's the nature of the illusory world. Now, I mean, I'm not saying most devotees that I know, they've got Krishna all over their Facebook. It's like Krishna and devotees and kirtan and so many wonderful things. Prasadam, but you look at the other half, once in a while I get somebody in my news feed or whatever that I can tell they're just showing off, you know. A lot of times it's just, look at me and my dog, you know. I mean, the way people are, I'm thinking, wait a minute, I don't even know if that's really your dog. You might have just seen a really neat looking dog at the park and said, hey, can I take a picture with your dog? And you're hugging up on the dog. So the people will say, wow, you must be cool. You got a really cool dog. You've got one of those, you know, some exotic breed. Does it make any sense? So let me read another verse and remember the question.
I have a verse to read too.
So then we jump over to the 18th chapter. So Krishna says again, this is many different places in Bhagavad Gita. He's reaching out to you. He's really trying. Why do we not notice that outreach from Krishna? Because we don't read enough. If you read, you're going to connect with Krishna directly. He's going to touch your soul if you read. So Krishna says,
What text are you?
18th chapter, 64th verse. Krishna says, because you are my dear friend. Imagine Krishna saying this to you. Because you are my dear friend. I am speaking to you my supreme instruction, the most confidential knowledge of all. Because you're my dear friend, I'm going to tell you the most confidential knowledge that exists. This is better than any gossip that you're going to get on the street or in Facebook. This is a real story. I'm going to give you the most confidential knowledge of all. Hear this from me, for it is for your benefit. I want you to hear from me. Krishna says, touch Trina. I want you to hear me. I'll talk to you. I'll talk to you in scriptures. I'll talk to you in your mind. But you gotta want me to. Krishna goes where he's invited. You want him in your heart? Invite him. Ask him. Hey, come in, take over. Clean up. Help me get straight. I tried Tony Robbins and he didn't really get me all the way, so I'm thinking maybe you can deliver me the rest of the way, Krishna. You're the source of everything. So in the next verse, 1865, Krishna says, he's revealing his heart to you. What does he want? Always think of me. Become my devotee. Worship me and offer your homage to me. Thus you will come to me without fail. I promise you, because you are my very dear friend. He's talking to you. He's talking to me. He's talking to us. I promise you this because you are my very dear friend. So what do I want? I want you to always think of me. That sounds kind of romantic, doesn't it? You know, if you're on a date with someone and you're trying to get the relationship to move along, and they look at you and say, you know what I want? I want you to always think of me. That's a pretty strong sign that the relationship is doing really well, yeah? I mean, there's love heading this way. I want you to always think of me. Now, if that was just the average person, you may think, well, that's a sweet thing for you to ask, but I don't know if I can always think of you. I mean, how great do you really think you are? But when Krishna says, I want you to always think of me, well, that makes a lot of sense. What else is there to think about? The supreme, most beautiful, most attractive. The question is, how not? The answer is, we don't know. We don't know him. If we knew him, we'd never be able to get him out of our mind. And this chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, will take you to that position. The more you chant, the more you hear, the more you will think with Krishna. This chanting Hare Krishna doesn't just stop when the kirtan's over. You know, we have a wonderful kirtan. Their Kirtaneshwar, Govindamata, they're singing like everything is going. Bala's beating the heck out of that drum. Kartals are just fabulous. And the Maha Mantra is just echoing off the walls. Hare Krishna. Hare. So when the kirtan is over and we unplug the microphone, we put away the harmonium, we put away the drum, the kirtan's still going, isn't it?
It's over.
It takes over. You don't really notice this at first, but someday you'll notice, hey, this never goes away. Wow, this is success. So Krishna says, no, if you let me put my arm around you one time, I'm not going to take it away. If you let me get close, I'm not backing up. Because Krishna remembers, we've already done this. You wanted to back away and go do your own thing and be the center of attention. And that's brought you nothing but suffering. And so now you're approaching me. So this time, I'm not going to back up. I can taste sincerity that you want to have this friend thing that we have. You want to explore the depths of this friend thing. You're not afraid. You're not afraid of me anymore. So now we can be in love. We can be best friends. In other words, you've opened your consciousness to let me give you pleasure. You were looking for pleasure. You're looking for love in all the wrong places. Remember that? That was back in the 80s, wasn't it? You know, so I was thinking everybody's going to be too young to remember that. Looking for love in all the wrong places. Well, now, out of distress or intelligence or whatever the reason, now you're coming back to me, still looking for the same thing. And I smell a little bit of sincerity there. So this time, I'm there for you. You wanted to leave, I let you. Now you don't want to leave me, you want me. Okay. Then we're rejoined. You see. So I promise you this because you are my very dear friend, Krishna says. And sometimes we should just say that to him. Krishna, you're my best friend. You're really all I have. I don't have anything else. Whether I had a few dollars or a few billion, I don't have anything but Krishna. None of us have anything but Krishna. There is nothing but Krishna. It's like I've said before, if you're standing face to face with Krishna, you're looking Krishna right in the face. What's behind you? Nothing. Void. The source. It's like the moon. You know, our moon faces, one side of the moon faces the sun. But then you've got the backside that's not facing the sun. It's called the dark side. You see, for so long, we've been like the dark side of the moon. We've been facing away from Krishna. Heck, we don't even believe if there is a God sometimes. Maybe at some point in this life or some other life we've lived, we might have doubted there even is a supreme. We were the dark side of the moon. So now, towards the light, there's nothing but darkness behind you. Everything emanates from the source. Krishna is that supreme source of all sources. Yeah, Govindamata.
I was thinking about how when I was young, when I used to study scriptures, and I used to hear the pastor preaching from the pulpit, it was always like, it was just the title. He would make all these demands because he needed all of this from us. And as we study the Bible, we get to realize that Krishna doesn't need us to think about him all the time. Krishna's not doing it because he's trying to get something from us. Everything that he's laying out, he's doing it because it benefits us. But he's literally doing all of this for us.
For you.
Yeah.
He is the complete whole. He doesn't need anything.
Yeah.
He's the source. Everything's emanating from him. So he's not needy at all. He doesn't need anything from you. He wants you to love him. But if there were none of us, if there were no living entities at all, just God by himself, he's still complete. He's the complete whole. You see? But because he wants to enhance his ecstasy, therefore you exist. Because between this friendship that we have, I mean, having a friend is pretty sweet, isn't it? How about a friend that would die for you? A friend that would do anything for you. What if that friend is like a real strong friend, like, I don't know, God, and he's willing to do anything to make you happy? He's Govinda, the giver of pleasure, the source of pleasure, and he wants to give it to you because he's completely satisfied being God. But if he and make you happy, well, it gives him even more ecstasy. See? He wants this loving exchange. He's complete without it. But we exist, and this loving exchange exists for your pleasure. It gives him pleasure to give you pleasure. Good point, huh?
Great.
Did you have a?
I want to read this verse because I know it's so relevant. I read it today and I saved it as my studies. This is a Brahmana, but he's actually Krishna. He's coming to the wife of a king, the wife of a king who just died. It's an analogy, but not really speaking. It says, the Brahmana inquired as follows: who are you? Whose wife or daughter are you? Who is the man lying here? It appears you are lamenting for this dead body. Don't you recognize me? I'm your eternal friend. You may remember that many times in the past you have consulted me. Brahmana continued, my dear friend, even though you cannot immediately recognize me, can't you remember that in the past you had a very intimate friend? Unfortunately, he gave up my company and accepted a position as the enjoyer of this material world. That's the fourth canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam.
What's the verse?
It's text number 53 and 54. This is the verse that.
But what, fourth canto?
Fourth canto in chapter 28.
28? What are the verses?
53 and 54.
Those are both really sweet verses.
Those are the verses that they often use.
Can't you remember me? He's saying. You don't remember me, do you? How many times? How many times do you think you've had that conversation or almost had that conversation with Krishna? When he's there and he wants to say, you don't remember me, do you?
52, 53.
You don't remember me. I mean, I'm Krishna. I'm not crushed because of it. You wanted to forget me and I helped you because I had to help you or you couldn't possibly forget me. But I'm just amazed that you don't remember me. Of all people, of all entities, you don't remember me. But because he's the complete whole and because he's Krishna, he's not like hurt. Like, oh, after all I gave you, And you forget it. And it's like, no. You will remember me. You're going to want me back. I know that. It's been so many billions of lifetimes that you've been away from me, but there's no way you can stay away from me. Because your existence is incomplete without me. Without that association with Krishna, your existence means nothing. You're just an entity out there trying to scratch and dig for all the enjoyment that you can get. And you got to get it before he gets it. Competition. Struggle for existence. And we don't need it. You don't need it. You're eternal. You don't have to struggle for existence. I mean, we have to keep these bodies together. We have to keep body and soul together. We have to work on our health. So there's so many duties that we need to do. But who's going to help you with all that anyway? Krishna's going to help you out no matter what. Even if you don't want to remember him, he's still going to. He doesn't say. It says in the first verse I read, I'm equal to everybody. Why? Same opportunities available to my devotee and my non-devotee. Non-devotee, you have a change of heart? Come on, come into my arms. I thought we were rid of you.
Well, I thought you guys were done. I was just gonna come hang out.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
So anything else before we wrap it up? Any more discussion? Criticisms? Huh? Thank you.
Well, thank you for helping me remember.
I always like to. It helps. It helps me. It helps everyone to remember that Krishna is our friend. No matter what. No matter what. What is it that you could possibly do to lose that friendship with Krishna? Except there is one thing. How can you do that? It starts with desire. You want to forget him? Maybe he'll allow it. He'll help you to forget him. The same is true when you decide, I want to remember you, Krishna. Krishna says, oh, excellent idea. I want you to remember me too. So, all right. Thank you all so much. Going to be heading out to India pretty soon for 4 months. And I'm thinking we might do a Krishna Cove, like on a Zoom, maybe while I'm gone.
Yes.
Do one or two. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I can just, I don't have to take a bath or get dressed. I can just put on a kurta, wear a gumshoe, sit there in my room in Mayapur.
People are only gonna see you from here, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
That's it.
Maybe with the camera looking out the back
And so
window.
you have to
see-
get up and you forget. And then
Yeah.
So
Looking out the back with the joy from the distance. And, so,